Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check him out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
A clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
Welcome back to Twisted Tales, folks. For today's story, I'm going to talk about the Dungarvon Hooper. It's kind of like a little ghost story for you guys here. Now, this tale, fact or fiction as it may be, it's still a twisted tale nonetheless. So, it's originally like a ghost story that was kind of made set in stone in a song by Michael Whalen. And he was just a guy well known for his folk songs and poetry. So this one takes place during the 19th century, roughly around the area of New Brunswick. So it's kind of around the time of like the Great Migration of Canada, which, I'll give you a definition, like 800,000 or more immigrants, mostly British and Irish origins, had immigrated over to Canada. So there was a young Irishman named Ryan, who had arrived in our great country, carrying nothing but his clothes on his back and his life savings, which he kept on a money belt. So Ryan began looking for work. Being new to Canada, he stumbled upon a lumberjack camp near the Dungarvon River. So he was kind of just tired, so he went in, checked it out, and eventually he was hired on as the role of camp cook. The boss that hired Ryan, he actually noticed the money belt that he kept on him. So he was having money issues himself with the camp and whatever, right? So he decided he would orchestrate a plan to get the money belt somehow. Now, part of the cook's job was waking up early, meal prepping, and he liked to wake the crew up by like hollering, making like a whooping noise. He could yell really loud, which the workers kind of, got up right away, and a lot of the workers liked Ryan. His humor grew on people over time. Just a nice guy, right? Except, everybody liked him except his boss. His boss is a short-tempered man. Workers are kind of weary of him because he was a bit fearful. But, they carried on, they worked. The boss is a dick. What do you do? So, the boss was actually determined to get Ryan's money belt by any means necessary. So, he concocted a plan to steal it, and he was going to kill Ryan. And as, he just wanted the money just to go into, like, the lodging camp funds. But that's what he said, but we all know that he wanted it for himself, right? He'd attempt to do shit to Ryan, He asked for the money belt, Ryan refused, and at the time the boss seemed to let it slide for, only a moment. So, one freezing cold morning, he plotted his revenge against Ryan. So, the boss woke everybody else up early. He wanted to send him out on a hunting trip before breakfast, and Ryan was there to prepare breakfast and stay behind with the boss in tow. Now the boss, while everybody was gone, he murdered Ryan. He left no marks on the body, no signs of foul play, and upon the workers' return from the hunt, the workers hounded him for answers. That was their buddy, Ryan's my good friend, what the fuck happened, So, the boss, he kind of got grilled for a little while, and the boss said that Ryan had mentioned earlier that he was sick, and that the boss had let him rest for a bit, and he must have died from his illness. And not a lot of many people, bought this charade. But others questioned him about even where the money belt was, which his boss denied even knowing about. And he told them that maybe a wild animal had ran off with it. Eventually the workers accepted the story. I mean, what do you do? It's the dead of winter. It's such an isolated place. Are you just going to walk back into town and figure this shit out? No. So they had to take his word for it. So others went back to cooking, and others were sent out to bury Ryan's body. Now, being so cold with the ground frozen, there wasn't a lot they could do for digging, much like with what they had for tools and stuff, right? The only thing they could possibly do was, just light a fire, to somehow soften the ground, perhaps. But even if they did that, it's not going to do a heck of a lot to bury a body. You're only going to dig, like, what, a few inches. But even trying to do all that after working a hard-ass day, you're not going to have much ambition to do that. So the workers had dug Ryan a shallow grave and buried him best they could. As the aroma of supper just started going through the air, everybody got hungry and they headed back to camp. They didn't even mark the grave, so the poor guy was left alone in a shallow grave in bumfuck nowhere. That's kind of shitty. But upon returning and settling back into camp, it began to storm and high winds started blowing snow everywhere. And over time, the workers began to hear like something in the distance of the wind. They thought, it's just high-pitched wind, it's all good. But eventually a howling, other than the wind, over and over, kind of like a person screaming and wailing, came through all night. So this scared the shit out of the workers, and they noticed it was actually coming from the area of Ryan's grave. And the workers, they made it through the night, and they left in the morning. Everybody left the whole camp, even the boss, and they never returned. So there's legend told, like, if you go into the woods, you'll hear a whooping and wailing sound. Now, if you venture further into these woods and come across the burial site, a ghost appears of that of a young man, and he just stares at you. Doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything, until you move closer. As soon as you get close enough, he'll begin to scream and wail. You won't get any further. So the ghost haunts the wood. My guess is because he kind of just wants justice for his murder. And, one day be at peace. That's all anybody wants, right? One day of fucking peace. But a reverend named Murdoch had been called to the woods just to silence the ghost cries. And at one point, he blessed the woods, and he set Ryan's soul to rest. So, I mean, it's not overly scary, but I mean, it's kind of a little tale nonetheless. And just trying to find an actual source on this was kind of hard, but it's definitely just a tale that was passed down from people here and there over time, right? Did the murder actually occur? Who knows? Was it just folklore? Probably. But one thing I do know is Reverend Murdoch, as stated in New Brunswick Provincial Archives page, he was in fact called to the woods to help with the ghost. And, you guys can decide on this one. I hope everyone enjoyed this little tale from around my hometown. So, stay safe. It's almost fucking Friday. And thanks for tuning in. Oh, quick thing. Canada Post, actually, they made a stamp of this, too. This was released in 2016. It was actually a Hooper-themed stamp. So, pretty cool. Alright, well, you guys have a wicked day. Take care. I'm out.
Twisted Tales.